coffee. I haven't stopped for 5, but anyway, I'm Emily Grego. I'm President and CEO of the Leandro Chamber of Commerce. And this is Small Business Week. We do this every year. We've been doing it for about 5 years now, and our major partner is the City of San Leandro. So thank you, City of San Leandro. But yeah, we do this every year. It's always the first week in May, and we do these different workshops or webinars or whatever it is during 2021. It was, obviously virtual, but now we're back in person. So I want to thank Jessica Prado and Diana Elliott, their staff of the Chamber, for helping us get all of this set up. So thank you guys. And today is Building Permits 101. And I will tell you, at the Chamber, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, what's the process? Or maybe I've gotten my permit in, it's taken a little while, so we really thought it was important to, let's learn what the process is, let's hear what Michael Jeffery has to tell us so that we're all knowledgeable, so that when we get these questions, we have much better answers. So Michael, I am going to turn it over to you. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, and thanks for setting it up early. In the building industry, 8:30 is
Lunchtime?
Like lunchtime, yeah. So this is good. I'm Jeffery, Chief Building Official here. I've been here about 17 years. Prior to that, I had a small remodeling business here in town. Born and raised my kids here. Kids went to the same schools my wife and I went through, so I'm really endeared to the city and take my job serious. So that said, full disclosure, it's not going to be everything you need to know because we'll all be snoring in half an hour. We went through all that one time because it can get kind of monotonous. So when Des asked me to put together something, I thought I would just like smatter a whole bunch of slides up there and just random thoughts, which it probably looks like that. You see it? I have copies of it there. But it gives you a good start and a good insight. And we will definitely cover what Emily was talking about is time frames, how to really, the smooth permitting process, the emphasis on that, is how to smooth things out, because that's, I've been in this capacity for about 1.5 years now, and it's probably the biggest issue is why it takes so long to get a permit, and I think you all agree. But you know what I'd really like to do first is maybe go around, you guys could introduce yourself so I know what you guys do for a living, and how I can kind of get into this too.
My name is Pat Porter. I work for the Fiduciary Services. I tend to be the person who handles the home improvement projects for our clients who can't handle it for themselves. So I do research on contractors that we hire. I Google them. I look on the state board. I kind of like try to find whatever I can on them. But I'm also the one who coordinates the schedule and makes sure that we're talking to whoever's delivering and making sure that communication is clear with our staff and with our clients.
Well, I'll be referring to you during this seminar a lot.
Hi, I'm Mia of Mia's Fiduciary Services, and I put the responsibility on Kat to deal with our clients' home improvement project, because as you can see, she knows what she's doing and she's really good at it. But I suppose it's a good idea for me to know some of it too, just in case she takes a day off or gets sick or something.
Right. So let's go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I know you work for the chamber.
I'm Jessica. I'm the marketing and events manager at San Leandro.
And I'm also the San Leandro Chamber of Commerce, and Diana, the administrative assistant.
Okay.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Diana. I have a professional organizing business, and I'm branching out to start an online vintage boutique shop. I'm currently working and partnered with a company that installs patio covers and sunrooms called Valley Builders. They hired me on to take care of the permitting process for all the clients that want a sunroom patio cover.
Oh, go ahead. Armor.
Yeah, my name is James McBride. I run a small track business called Traffic Forward. It helps nonprofits and grassroots track volunteer hours. I'm also a homeowner here at San Leandro, looking at doing some home improvement stuff and just trying to see what the process is for that.
Great.
I'm Robert Naga with Alameda Enterprises. I do cleaning services, and I live in San Leandro. Most of my life in San Leandro. And do some building in my house.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, we will, help me find out a way to do that.
That's great. So we have some homeowners, small business, facilitators, so it's a perfect mix of crowd. And Katie, there's Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Bowman. Good morning, with the Economic Development Department here with the city. And we're so glad you came this morning to hear about this. And, you know, as Mike said, you know, we do get various questions and lots of questions about the building permit process. And, you know, there's so many different nuances, but he's a great resource. So you're lucky to be here talking to him.
Yeah, no, this is a great mix. So, first few slides, they're kind of wordy, but I want you guys to get kind of an idea as, you know, where did the building codes come from, or where do they come from, and how they're updated. So, a lot of that I'll read off real quick, kind of elaborate a little bit, but I have a feeling that after these 20 plus slides or so, I think the Q&A is going to be pretty good here. I have that feeling. So, where do I start? And that's what I said when Des got a hold of me. Where do I start with this type of presentation? Then I thought, well, you know what? I think we have all those here. Maybe not any developers, but small business owners, contractors, and you guys. This is, I'll actually refer to you a lot simply because that's a good way to go. It's a great way to go. Be more organized, you know, have things set up, you know, vet out contractors, vet out the architects and so on, and that is kind of key to a smooth permitting. So, I'll promote you. But following slides will cover how codes are developed, why are they required, what type of work is exempt from permits, which is not much, why your project will be value added with a permit, and the process. So I was going to do the process at the beginning, but I thought I would just you know, go through, you know, water codes and so on first. So that part will make more sense. Not to mention, I included in your packets a lot of information. I also printed, excuse me for killing the trees, but because it's kind of wordy, I gave you the actual slides, simply because there's some there's some links there that obviously you can click on here or click on there. I could send this to you electronically so that the links are live, but all roads are going to lead to our website. And you'll see inside the packet some very tip of the iceberg of things you can glean from planning department's landing page and the building department's landing page. So, and we'll get into that further on down. How building codes are developed. Plus, you guys are all from San Leandro, so one eye opener, because sometimes we go about our working day and we don't see the whole picture. So I pulled up a whole bunch of photos and oh my God, we're a busy town. We have a lot going on. This one in particular is Torani Syrup. You guys have heard of Torani Syrup, 300,000 square foot, brand new tilt up, high-tech manufacturing lab. Just a great business bringing to town, which is, oh gosh, I think it's like 300 people or so. And that's one shift, right? I mean, I think, and they're talking, Lisa's talking about adding a second shift coming up. So, I mean, this is great, well-paid jobs, but the whole thing, you know, being in business here all my life and living here all my life, it's just what's going on around me. I've been here 64 years, and it's definitely changed. I mean, that was a pulp plant, you know, groundwater problems, contaminated soil problems. I think that's a stacked soil they had to get rid of because it was a little hot. But now, you know, out of the ashes came Torani Syrup. So that was a good eye opener. I think I'll be promoting San Leandro here too at the same time.
Where is that building?
That's on Williams? Marina. Sorry, 2000 Marina.
Yeah, so like west of, not Fairway, Merced, western Merced.
Right.
Okay.
So way out there on the right, remember that big, steamy, pulpy smelling building that was out there for, huge building out there forever? They broke down paper products and made paper for sheetrock.
Yeah.
And it was, chemical heavy. I mean, so the transition definitely helped our builder here for sure. Now this is the real boring stuff, but basically codes you know, you gotta have some kind of data point, so they're referred to as model building codes. And they're developed, you know, pretty much nationwide, but then modified, you know, the ICC, UL laboratory, I mean, the whole manufacturing association, decision makers, scientists, they all get together and try to stay in sync. Try to stay in sync with product, and because, you know, we're going lightning speed in certain places, batteries, you know, photovoltaic, things are constantly changing. So we do have a system in place where every 3 years it gets updated. And what happens is you try to keep up with State Fire Marshal's office, who creates some pretty stringent codes, and new products coming out that we have to protect all of us from, like our fault protection and things like that. So, and that's where these codes keep coming from. We want to stay current, and then there's also a mid-cycle time in that 3-year period that we can adopt new codes because things change so fast. We want to stay up with it. We don't want to get ahead of technology, and we don't want to get that behind the technology. We want to kind of stay, you know, on par. So, and again, that's why I printed that out, because you guys could, you know, kind of read through that. And we're just starting, basically, we're at the end of our triennial, so July to the end of the year is when we have to go to council and adopt. So what happens is, obviously, codes in Florida are going to be, building codes are going to be a little bit different than they are here in California. Florida, higher wind, so heavy roof loads, a lot of codes and attachment of roofs, no big craftsman style, low slung, you know, eaves, that kind of thing to trap air, you know, fly to Kansas. But, and then it gets modified, you know, state by state. You know, the Midwest, tornadoes. Out here, you know, what do we have? We have soils and earthquakes. So it's a pretty stringent code.
Also fire though, because.
Yeah, we have heavy woody areas, wild urban interface areas. And that's true, you know, well, there's certain states that can fight tree, right? But yeah, we have heavy fire codes that cover us. And we do have quite a bit of wild urban interface areas here up in, you know, Bay Vista, you know, Chabot Park area. And you have to build completely different there. Very resistive construction, different types, you know, no vents or different types of vents that you can use in the attic. It's quite a good area. We do have an overlay, and when we start talking about permits and things like that, we also do, you know, pre-application. So we can look real quick and see if you're in a wild urban interface area, so you can anticipate, or your architect can anticipate, you know, for example, windows, probably 4 or 5 times the cost. You know, fire windows. The trims are different, the glass is different, it's all tempered, and you know, so that's a driver, it's a cost driver that your customer's going to want to know, you know, on the get-go. And maybe, you know, trim down the amount of windows, or trim down the size of the project, or hopefully still go completely with it. But usually, you know, there are some codes where you just scratch your head, but I gotta tell you, being in a building, and then on this side of the permit card for 17 years, most of these things make sense, and they're here for our safety. So then, California codes, and that's what we work out of, I'll show you on the next 2 slides, are, you know, modified for the state of California. Well then, you have microclimates, or, you know, micro areas that, you know, here, everybody knows that we're, you know, sitting on a couple of fault lines. So, and we also have some pretty crazy soils around here. So certain areas that are subject to slide, a couple liquefaction areas. Of course, we have flood areas over, you know, and you would think it would be just by the marina, but we have a pretty heavy, you know, concentration of FEMA flood zones here too. And so all those things you want to find out first before you go to your client, or your client comes to you and they live, let's say, you know, by the marina area, or by a flood canal, or by the creek right here. There's a lot of flood area here too, floodway. And so you want to be up on all that stuff prior to, you know, you'll come up with this idea, everybody did while they were working from home last couple of years, and so we had a lot of inquiries. And so we kind of tailored our responses and our availability to that. In other words, we were more accessible, you know, for questions and answers. this is one, I jumped on this because this is exactly what I wanted to do, is reach out. We also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with our seismic upgrade program here, residential. I've been doing that one for like 17 years. We're gonna start back up, and maybe the chamber can advertise that for us.
What's it called?
We get 40, 50 people. How to seismically upgrade your home. There's a grant program through the California Earthquake Authority. It's called Brace and Bolt, where you can get up to $3,000 towards your upgrade. That's another way we can improve. We might.
James and I know that one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You've done it. Yeah. Where do you live? 'Cause you look familiar.
I live in Victoria. I went to that racing boat right before the pandemic, so.
Yeah. So you recognize me, huh? Yeah. Okay. And it works out great. Did you get the grant money?
Yeah, super fast. And I think Mia lives across the street from me, and she saw that, and she got it as well.
Yeah. Oh, on
Right
Victoria.
During the pandemic, 2021.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so right after that, we had to stop for a while. We're going to start back up. So shameless plug. There we go. New customers. And then we dial it in. That's where my job comes in this year, is to look at California code, how it's changing. We'll get that soon, from the state. How it's going to look from 2019 to 2022 code cycle, and then we add in things. For example, here, any job over $10,000 in valuation where you're affecting the gas line, we require that little gas shut-off valve over by the meter. Other things too, we a little more stringent on the engineering side in regards to building here on soils. We require geotech to check out the soil, so the engineer has a bearing pressure to work off of. Because again, the way this area is situated on the foothills, you have drainage to the creek. This was rich, fertile farmland forever. Even before we settled out here, it was rich and fertile. And so you have some crazy soil you're building on. And as evidenced by, does anybody live over by the creek at all from here? There's, I did a lot of foundation work over by that area because, there's a certain way to build on those. And, of course, these homes are almost 100 years old, right? So they're really nice houses, so they're worth saving. So a lot of retaining walls, a lot of new foundations. So we try to get in and do it. We know more now. So there's ways to do it where a home will last, hundreds of years. So it goes, from the international stage, California stage, to our little town here in San Leandro stage. So that'll be my job the next 6 months. And we're also introducing some form of reach codes, which the reach thing is like, reaching above and beyond the minimum code. And Katie's involved with it, I'm involved with it, and our sustainability manager. The first introduction is going to be pretty wild, a lot of things, exceptions carved out and so on, but kind of getting towards, going, fully electric, but very soft opening kind of thing, and that'll be mixed in with code adoption. And then, so I took a photo of my office and bookshelves, but I didn't put it in because it's from when I was contracting, my architect and engineer. We had 3 binders. We kept up on these. We bought them every 3 years. Now there's 20 binders, and then all the associated things that they refer to. All, you guys, the biggest one is UL, Underwriters Laboratory. And they refer to that one. So you need those books, or at least access to it electronically. Listing companies, small business. So, if you have employees and you're starting up a business, you want to buy some equipment, you want to make sure that they're listed by a nationally recognized testing laboratory, i.e. Underwriters Laboratory, ETC, ETL. There's 20 of them, but what you want to do is just type in Google NERBL, and it'll tell you the ones that are actually, and some are not recognized. And if you put a piece of machinery, you got an employee and they get injured on it, and it's not nationally recognized by one of these testing labs, you know what happens after that. You get a lawsuit. So you always want to be aware of that. So there's all these other books, references, and it's quite a bit to wrap your head around, but we see you do it every day, kind of. So it's my job to give you guys kind of the direction. I'm not, I'm not gonna learn all this, in an hour, but it's definitely, this will be, like, when you guys took my earthquake class, at least you were able to deal with contractors, know what, he did it himself, did you? You did it yourself too, didn't you?
No.
No, you didn't? Oh, but you raised your hand, I remember you said you were gonna do it. But at one time, I had you were close to changing your mind, I remember that conversation.
Oh, I know, I had started to do it one
Yeah.
year, and then I had to postpone it.
Oh, okay,
And then, so I did it another year.
Yeah. okay, so I don't wanna
Hired
put you on the spot.
Right, and then I said, James, give me your contractor, and I called
Yeah.
my contractor.
Okay, who'd you use? You remember?
Golden
State
State,
seismic.
Golden Gate site.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, they've been around a long time. And as you can see, we were talking about, so our California mechanical, plumbing, building, residential is all based on international codes, but they're customized for the West Coast. I imagine, the state of Oregon, might be close to the same. I don't know, but if you looked at the code books from, New York, state of New York, I bet you it's gonna be way different than ours, especially in the building and structural. So they're all based on that and then migrated down to us. It's gonna be a busy summer, fall for me. And then the references I talked about, that's just one example, but if you go here, it'll show you, and then I didn't put, but if you guys write down NRTL, NRTL, that'll take you, yeah. National Testing Research Lab, NRTL.
National Research Testing.
Yeah, labs. Yeah. But if you do NRTL, you'll get it. That's the other thing in this business. Oh, man, acronyms. You start talking in acronyms, and it's insane. And then there's Title 24 is 12 parts. Again, you guys can read this at your leisure, but the volume 1 of the building code. I mean, there's 2 volumes, and they're both 4 inches thick. And then at every chapter, there's a matrix of who's adopted that particular chapter. And then there's definitions, and then it goes on and on and on. So I just wanted to throw that up there, just to know that, what parts there are and what parts we go by. Plumbing, mechanical code, plumbing, energy code, historical building code. And we definitely have some historical buildings here. So when we talk about plan submittal, we're the building department. We also have the planning department, but you'll hear me refer to the planning department because this is something, you can find out if your house is, historical building. Most likely not, but it's still another good thing to check. And then California Fire Code. The Fire Code, you mentioned it, is here, they're kind of like, kind of like the Pope. We listen to everything they put out and we enforce it. In fact, I can't even do a certificate of occupancy until the fire department has signed off. Or a temporary certificate of occupancy. So if you're thinking of opening a business and you might have a few little things, you still have to do, I can issue a temporary certificate of occupancy, but fire has to sign off on it first. So my job is to be that mediator with fire and walk with them, and we make it work. We are definitely business friendly here.
Who from the fire department? Any firefighter, or is there a specific person?
It's Alameda. We contract with Alameda County Fire, and we have a deputy fire marshal and a fire inspector.
Oh, okay.
On site. I mean, they're literally from me to Des in our office,
Okay.
which really works out well. 3 chief building officials ago, when the fire department lost their space upstairs, said, "Hey, come on down. We'll make room."
Yeah.
And it worked out really well because of our cross communication. And hey, we're going to the boutique shop to try to open up, and we'll go together. And he'll do classes with us, and his inspector. So it's really, really helped.
So then they also have to do that for the other cities that are in Alameda County?
Yeah, they do.
And there's only 3 of them?
No, they have, that
Each city
chief,
has like their own.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I was
Yeah.
gonna be like,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
would
yeah.
be one thing that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It does.
so the deputy we have is for the whole city, and
Yeah.
then some cities have their own fire department, like Alameda does.
yeah.
Some cities contract with Alameda for
Yeah.
fire, like I think Hayward has their own.
Yeah, and like Livermore has still their own fire department,
Yeah.
but the
Okay.
trend is,
Yeah, but
To join
this
us.
covers quite a few cities.
Yeah.
Bowman,
Yeah.
In-
Union City.
yeah,
Newark.
Union City,
Yeah.
Riverdale,
But yeah, they have their own market.
They have their own.
yeah, they do.
But ours would have to do Union City, Dublin.
No,
Those
Union
cities
City
also
has
have.
their
Yeah.
own.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay.
Fire prevention, that's what that department's called, that chief, Bonnie Terra, you know Bonnie, don't you?
I think you do, I think I do, yeah.
And, she sees, oversees like 25 people, fire examiners, inspectors,
Okay.
and does, I wanna say 8 to 10 cities. And so it's a big job, and we have 2 that are our own. And it works out really well that we all, I don't know if that's the situation in other cities where, they're within yelling distance, you know, so it really helps from a business standpoint
Yeah.
to work together, getting these, you know, the Travanis opened, these huge places, you know, these 6-story low-income housing, you name it here. There's a lot going on, but, so we have to really work closely together. And I can't tell you how many times we've been, we have a inside table where, you know, the plan's flopped out, and, we argue back and forth. So the good thing is, you know, again, they have to sign off on it, but I can make the code interpretation to kind of make it work. Of course, it's got to make sense. But so I do have some sway, but at the same time, you know, I take the fire code, you know, very seriously. That's another thing too. I did a lot of back thinking when I created this thing. Gosh, you would not believe how many fires and cars in the buildings we get a month here. I mean, it's a busy city, and when you sit down and actually think about it, you don't think about them individually. You know, when I get a call at 2 in the morning, I have to go out. But then when you recap, you go, oh my God, I went out like 5 times last month. You know, so it's this, you know, for the small city that.
Okay, so
Busy.
why does the, let's see, what is that here?
Oh.
The chief building official get a call at 2 in the morning?
Well, you know what?
To go out somewhere.
I gotta let go of that. I gotta let go of that. Yeah, that's a very valid question. I've been, when I came to work here, our chief building official, William Schott, he said, here, he gave me a set of keys. He said, you're on call now. And no training or anything, you know, we have to go evaluate the structure, either red tag it, yellow tag it, or green tag it. You know, make sure utilities are off, disconnected, and, you know, meet with incident commander on the job. And so anyway, I learned on the job, and I've just been on call for 17 years.
But I'm thinking like, somebody needs you to inspect the building at 2 in the morning.
Oh,
It's too
okay.
dark.
Yeah, no, we have lighting, but example, this big apartment building on Llewellyn, major fire, it's called the Chateau Apartments. 178 units or so. Kind of, you drive inside, and this courtyard kind of set up, and it was a stack, you know, one above each other. The last 2 were major water damage. But if we didn't go out and work it out with PG&E and the property owner, got an electrician out there, we were able, within 2 hours, to get about 80 of those apartments back online and people back in. Believe me, it was like zombie land
So a
out there.
fire happened there, and so you went out to
Yeah.
consult if things were. Okay,
We
that's
try to
awesome.
You
work
can make
something
sure
out.
it's safe for people to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you weren't-
Yeah.
Now, obviously,
Power
you
to go back
know,
on.
yeah, and obviously that stack of units and the ones beside them, that was all by 5 in the morning, and we couldn't get them back in.
So that's when it comes to, like, you have your, I was trying to figure out what does it mean, existing building code?
Yeah.
But it didn't mean existing code, but existing buildings.
Yes.
There's a code in general except for.
It's kind of an
building
existing code, it's very
something
kind of weird, huh? But
building.
you're just absolutely right. And the existing building code is, I look at it as get out of jail free card, because there's certain things that structurally, you know, I don't know, my house is 100 years old. And there's certain things, it's just cost prohibitive, like if, you know, you're supposed to have 24 inches in front of the toilet. Let's say we had 22, that'd be a luxury in my house, but, and so we're not gonna make people rip out walls, so there's terminology in there that protects us from that, and that I can hang my hat on and say, hey, let's invoke this building code, where this is not prohibited, and let's roll with it, let's keep that 21 inches, so there is some leeway there, so next time you get an inspection, say, hey, can we invoke the existing building code here? And they'll step back and go, oh, okay. So that person knows what they're talking about. So yeah, that's a handy book. And in your business, that's a good one to have. You know, a real good one to have. So that's why I wanted to put those up there. Another random photo, that's La Vereda, senior housing. And the reason why I kept putting random photos in is we do, you know, everything from a science retrofit to multi-story to Kaiser hospitals, to 500,000 square foot freezers here. I mean, we have a smattering of probably every type of aspect of building here in San Leandro.
Where is La Vereda?
Right behind, what's the one, Marialta?
Yeah.
In front,
Is it
you know, across from Bart.
Juana in
Yeah.
Leandro.
Really nice, I mean, built nice, just really nice facility, and quiet. The windows they use there, and the sound class that they went to, really nice place. So I just put those randoms up. Why are permits required? So code is law, and, you know, once it's adopted, and then, you know, further adopted by, you know, our council, it's law. I mean, we're not the police, but it's actually, we have police powers, we don't have arresting powers or, you know, carry a gun or anything like that, but we do have police powers. And if code is violated, you know, we have administrative citations, we double the fee, so there are repercussions for building without a permit. And the whole thing is to protect us in the built environment. It's to save us from us, simply. And then that background is in Oahu, and that sold for $166,000. And the code department said, we're gonna make them tear it down. They still paid $166,000 for it. So I thought it was kind of neat. I could live there. We were just there a couple weeks ago. Not that place, but slightly better. And then what type of work is exempt from permits? And it's really funny. And I have the list in the next couple slides, but oil derricks. Don't know why. You guys can tell me why oil derricks are exempt from permits. Maybe because the oil industry is so powerful, but I mean, you would think, okay, water tanks under 5,000 square feet, small little poles, you know, under 24 inches or so, shade structures, you know, agricultural shade structures, swing sets, a couple more. I think this is retaining walls. So people that live in the hills, or if anything, a retaining wall, and it'll tell you the pamphlet. From the top of that retainer to the bottom of the footing for that retainer, if it's less than 4 feet, it's not considered a retaining wall. Because it'd be less surcharge on it, less hill on it, less weight on it. But not to say, let's just say that's, you know, we get a lot of retaining walls here that are 3 feet 11 inches for some reason. And keeps them exempt.
Keep the toddlers
You know,
away.
yeah, 3 feet 11 and a half. But look at the, I mean, to me, there's still, you know, a good chunk of soil up there, and it gets wet. So I would still put drainage behind that, keep hydraulic pressure down, but, you know, technically, and these ones, you know, it's a bad representation, but these ones are those lock-in ones, probably just has a gravel, you know, base to it, you know, lock in, but, you know, gosh, some of the retaining walls up in, like, Vista Vista area, they're serious, serious engineered walls.
The tank that you have in here,
Uh-huh.
are there how many gallons?
I think it's, let's see, I want to say it's in here. You know, we have the fences, you know, not over 7 feet high in the last foot, and that kind of varies too. Oh, there you go, number 4, 5,000 gallons. And I've had, when I built like in Castle Valley on Crow Canyon Road, before you say let the line through, when I did a couple dishes out there, I had to put 5,000 gallon tanks out by the road with a fire-approved hookup to it so they could use it for other fires too. And it's actually pretty simple. Yeah. I mean, and that's a nice feeling that 5,000 gallons handy, you know, especially the wood.
But it's on grade, it's not under, it's not, it's not buried.
Right, right. You know, here's one that we always get tested on, is number 6. And I added that do not have a sink. So painting, papering, tiling, carpeting, cabinets, and countertops. We're kind of pushing the permit thing, and I'll tell you why. What happens is when they come in and inquire, oh, I'm just replacing the cabinets, same layout, new tops. Well, now you're getting into installing a dishwasher, garbage disposal, all that kind of stuff. So you're doing some electrical, you know, if you're doing a garbage disposal and a dishwasher. We don't know if you're adding it, if we say, oh, no, you don't need a permit. And so what happens is, we'll go back, you know, somebody will call, they just work without a permit, and we don't know that we exempted them. And so we'll go on, we also do building code enforcement. And we'll go in, and sure enough, all the receptacles are changed out, all the new light cans. It's a major remodel, but the fact that we said, you know, it's exempt, it was like carte blanche. Oh, that's all we're doing is cabinet. So we're kind of keeping with, you know, you do need a permit for it. But I tell you, if you had a printout of cabinets, you know, for this type of permit, if you just lay out your electrical and you know that on your print, you know, you see those printouts that cabinet makers give you, you can make that a submittable set for kitchen. You just note it up really well, and what that does, for example, there was a fire at 1400 Carpentier, condominiums. So same thing, little fire up top floor, water damage for the successive floors below, and they had to move the cabinets out, and they had to do all this remediation, which was under permit, but the kitchens, they were technically exempt, but when we were going in, they were cutting light cans in, and when you're in a building like that, each horizontal floor is a rated assembly. So you start poking these non-protected openings in, and that unit has a fire, it's just gonna go right into the floor system above, collapse that floor, you know, kill people. So, so we've been pushing, you know, getting, you know, we're kind of holding to, and that's why I added, you know, out of sync, because that kind of puts it in. That kind of answers the question, right there. So, yeah, you do need a permit because, you know, unfortunately, you know, the contractors will, you know, the homeowner will, man, really nice to have some LEDs here, but they don't know the consequences of, you know, penetrating a rated floor assembly. So that's why I had to put that back in.
I know that one of the questions I sent you was regarding some clients I have who are having wheelchair ramps installed.
Oh,
One
yes.
of them doesn't need a permit because the contractor said, well, the porch is under 30 inches high. And the other one said, you know, it does need a permit, but, you know, they're not.
Yeah. I was looking at it this morning, Des printed those for me, and I was thinking the 30-inch thing, you know, it doesn't exist to us under 30 inches. But then it goes to, you know, we also have this obligation for safety. And let's say they put that thing in, you had a short setback in your front yard. And, you know, things like an e-ticket ride, just age myself, e-ticket ride at Disneyland, right? And I have a moral obligation to protect those folks from that. So there are things that I have discretion of saying, I mean, you know, that, no, you're not gonna get a permit for it. What I would suggest to advise your clients when that comes up is, we're more than happy. Now, this has changed in the last few years. I'll go out and do it, or one of the inspectors will go out and do a site visit. And if they can just put their eye on it and say, okay, we got a lot of distance here, it is under 30 inches, so technically I think we have it in there. Sidewalk driveways, that kind of covers it, number 5. Anything, that's the magic number for porches, but the trick with that is, if it's over 3 risers, it doesn't matter, that's a permit. So it's 30 inches or 3 risers, so there's that caveat. 3, you know, you have, you know, your steps, and you have your tread, flat part, and then the riser. So if you have 1, 2, 3, even if it's less than 30, it still requires a permit.
That's because steps can be different.
Yeah, they can only vary.
They're not consistent.
Right.
And so this is like when we had that other client and we were looking at, you know, where the rating was, and even the fall for it was too high. Those risers were all,
Yeah, so that's, so that would be, or they can come in with a quick little, on a napkin, and we'll go, nah, you wouldn't need a permit for that. The other flip side is if it's a commercial property, all ramps need accessibility, and so other things come into play with that. Yeah, so then, actually, the exemption, goes electrical, mechanical, so you can see it's really, there's not that many things exempt from a permit. I mean, cord and plugs, that's your toaster plugged in, decorative lighting, receptacles, repair, replacement, so you could do, an overcurrent device is your circuit breaker, and you can replace those, installation or maintenance of communications wiring, that's, appliances, apparatus or equipment. So, and what they're saying there, appliances, don't think of that as like a dishwasher, that's more like low voltage stuff. And the mechanical permits, there's not much that's actually exempt. And plumbing, the other thing too that I don't have on here is if you have an emergency, whatever, your sewer lateral, plumbing leak, electrical short, the wind blows your service mast down, you need power, your contractor can fix that without a permit as long as it comes in, the next business day. A lot of them don't come in the next business day, but within a couple of days. It says next business day, and go look, but in order to get, your electrical back, they need that permit so we can do a service release. And we've done, that's why I'm still on call. After winter nights, we make it, we make it work under that code, and then I'll create a phantom permit number so I can send it to PG&E and say, hey, you gotta get back, you're gonna get me in trouble, get the permit. But I'll know that permit number, I'll look in our software, and then I'll reserve that one, and then that'll be attached to it, and then they have power that weekend. So we make that work. And then, it's still bugging me why you asked me why I'm still on call, because two of the inspectors just bought homes here. One's on Wayne and one is on Maud. So I'm gonna change that tonight. I'm sorry, I just randomly came back to that. I was thinking back in line while I was talking. I should get off that. I'm just doing that, and the thing is,
We're here to help.
yeah, thank you. I'm gaining a lot from this.
Our business is a service oriented.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And then I'm bringing the city truck home. Having a city truck at home on the weekend while you're doing gardening is like the worst combination. Because I'll have contractors, hey Mike, can you come and look at this? It's a Sunday afternoon. And sometimes I do it, but yeah, good call. I'm gonna change that. So anyway, plumbing. And then, there's a certain, and contractors know this. If a contractor I'll give my cards to you guys, and we're very accessible on the website, all of our emails and phone numbers. If somebody tells you, the contractor comes up and tells you you don't need a permit, this is exempt, well now you're gonna kind of know because you have to print out. And, get a hold of one of us. And most likely they do need a permit. And there was a person at the CMO's office, she has a home over here, and two contractors went out there. It's a full gut out, full remodel, bathrooms, kitchen, everything. One contractor said, you don't need a permit, and I can start next week. The other one says, oh yeah, we need a set of plans, we need top 24, energy calculations, permits, and I'm a year out. I'm having a year out guy. Because two things. One, he said he didn't need a permit, and he can start in a week. There's no a good contractor right now is booked minimum a year out. You probably know that, right? So that would be suspect. And of course the guy who's booked a year out is, he's more expensive. But some folks are attracted to, hey, we can get a job going in a week. What's going to happen is we're going to come and put a stop order. We're going to double fee the job. And now it's stopped. Now the guy, post-starting the job has to, develop set plans, get it submitted. To me, he has egg on his face, or she has egg on her face, by doing it that way. And so it ends up costing more, for the customer, and, and taking more time. When it'll net out time-wise the same because of the work stoppage.
So when we're talking about emergencies, Okay,
Yeah.
I understand if you have a sewer lateral or electrical or fire, whatever. But we've had a situation where the chimney, it's a 100-year-old house, and the chimney was leaning, there was a gap. And we were.
Where are you at?
Garcia, the
Yes.
Garcia, you came out.
And what, yeah,
But it took us, we're like, we're not getting any feedback on the permit, and said, you know what, let me call,
yeah,
because we get a good wind, and that thing's going down. It's
Yeah.
a good neighbor.
that's life safety right there.
So, I think that part of it was that, you know, we have a very good contractor, but he's like, he's paying attention, and he's saying, I'm getting worried now,
Mhm.
because I'm not getting a response. How do we flag something when it's an emergency, like, I'm looking at
Ju-
cracks in my chimney, kind of like,
Yeah.
ah.
Oh, so, last question first, you see cracks in your chimney, get, somebody qualified to examine it. A lot of those chimney sweep companies are also maintenance and repair, so they're qualified to, you know, come up with an opinion. On that one, I do remember, and then I came out, looked at it, and said, get that, no, I,
Yeah, you did. You
and I
"Oh my
said,
God, that's gotta
and I
come out."
responded that day saying, get that thing
But
down,
that was 3 months after.
3 months out,
we did.
Okay, there's that itch.
So what do we do?
Well, you know what, we do outreach like this, I'm working on improving that. You have, every contact in
So
there.
any wording to be put in,
Yeah, this is an emergency.
okay, this just.
Yeah, you know, chimney about to fall, I mean, catchphrases. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sue the city, no.
That part.
We get that once in a while. But, yeah, so, that would be, and that's kind of, and, you know, another plug, that seismic class that we do on one of the nights, it's a 4-night class, spread out over 2 weeks. We talk about a lot of this stuff and how to get, you know, with us. Part of that packet there, we hand out about hiring contractors and so on. And my goal in at this capacity, is to make sure we're able to, and it's a work in progress, you know, I have to be honest with you, it's a big work in progress. And I'm the last one these days to use COVID as an excuse, but that really threw a monkey wrench into everybody's life. So, but we don't have that excuse anymore. We're virtually, you know, we're at this phase 4, but it's pretty much wide open. So at the same time, communication should improve, will improve. We're working, and we start next week on a big revamp of our software, so we can be totally electronic for submittal, which will really speed things up. Yeah, where you know, the comments go back and forth, lightning speed, along with the plans, along with the, you know, the clouded, you know, responses. And the thing we're working on is, I know a lot of cities do it, and you guys can verify it's in the business, that they're allowing reproductions of wet stamp copies because of COVID, and I really do think they jumped into that, 2000 of our actual last, you know how we require the wet stamp copies at the end of the day, you know, for submittal? I mean, not submittal, for giving you your permit and your plans. And to make sure that our copy, our copy that we have in office and the copy that the contractor or the owner has at the job are exactly the same. But so now they're allowing digital reproductions. And about 2 weeks ago, I inquired with our city attorneys. We want, if that's legal, we want to do it. But as it turns out, it's a more complicated thing, because what's going to happen is there's going to be this rebound after, and we're, you know, I think we're almost there. I don't know, with the news last night. You know, after COVID has left our lives, or we've learned to live with these little variations, I think there's going to be a whole new field for attorneys to, you know, sue for copyright infringement. So that's, our head city attorney said, you know, this is more complicated, that's why it's taking a couple of weeks and about 20 hours to figure out a billable time. But I'm glad we didn't just, you know, that I didn't do it administratively, that we looked into it deeper, because, but that'll coincide with us going fully digital, which would be a great compliment. I mean, I can't imagine, when I told you that we fill our plans out on this big table, we actually have all new screens, and we have waiting for us that goes on column, super large screen that instead of, you know, all this paper, it'll be just a keyboard, and we'll be able to, with fire, and lead inspectors and things like that, go over it on the screen, just bring it up, it'll be so simple. So we're you know, within a year of getting that squared away, so.
This brings up a question like about the logistics of how a permit is approved. I don't know if that's down later in your.
I think it is.
It's like if when our contractor comes to you, you know, with this permit
Yeah.
for the bathroom remodel, what happens happens in your office? What are the steps?
I have no, I know, I do. That's why I put it at the end, so we had like a little framework. And also, you know, what happens now, and it really depends on scope of work, size of work, but there's no like, there's time frames, Pat answered, to get things back and forth, but I definitely have a couple pages on that, so we'll get to it. But it's, that was also, this has been a good exercise for me, and then some of the questions that got emailed in, because there's, in any building department, there's definitely room for improvement. We have improved quite a bit, even during COVID, but there's a long way to go, and some of it has to do with communication, and this is the perfect venue for it, of how to smooth it out, because sometimes it's a two-way street. We're running out of time, don't we?
Well, I wanted to warn you that
Oh.
we're at 9:25. Officially, the activity, the activity is scheduled to end at 9:30, but, you know, clearly Mike is excited by this topic. I can tell you guys are excited based on the questions you guys are asking as well. So, if you're okay with it, we'll let him run
A little bit longer?
as he needs to.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Who's coming in next? They could join us too.
Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, so you guys have all this, so let's get, that's what the permit card looks like. And it's, when I was contracting, you see how it starts off with sewer, foundation inspection, it kind of goes in the order of construction. So I would, you know, do my contracts, it kind of follow this. So you get an inspection, it's a milestone, you get a payment. And it's clear communication that way too. You get all the plumbing done, all the rough framing done, you know, you get the check. So it's really an incentive too. A lot of contractors, I mean, it was like only 10 people. So, you know, we live and die by getting inspections passed. And it's a great incentive program. You know, again, when are they required? You saw, this is just kind of a code section. You'll have our, that's our building safety division number. We're actually, during COVID, it was like, that was not a live number, it was monitored and then kind of triaged and then returned. That's going back live next week. As far as, somebody should be answering that phone by next week.
So what happens with that permit when the work's complete and the contractor's platted?
And it's all done?
And it's all done, is he returning it, is she returning it to the homeowner, is he submitting it to the department? What happens?
So we sign off, and here, these are all your finals in that shaded area, and the owner should keep it. Maybe make a copy for the contractor. My suggestion, always been, I give them that working set of plans, that stamped plans that's full of coffee, sweat, little blood, and the permit card. That's for them, you know, for posterity. And we laser fish our copy. You know, we scan it, and it's on record till, you know,
Kingdom come.
Kingdom come, post-apocalypse, you know, might be around after that. So, yeah, so so there's definitely records out there, although I was looking for something today, right before walking over, and I can't find it. But generally speaking, especially from about late 80s on, you can definitely find it. But my whole goal is to give you plenty of info in these packets to where you should be able to contact a person, email a person, email is still a preferred way, and now come in person. We have, and you'll see on the landing page, we have this system called Acuity for making appointments, but we also take walk-ins. Walk-ins are based on capacity, so if we have somebody no-show, they made an appointment, we usually take a couple folks in. We're still kind of working that out, because to me, I mean, it used to always be just walk-in. I mean, you guys remember that. And I want this appointment system to work. A lot of cities do that, because nothing works. It's like DMV when you walk into some of these where I used to pull permits, and you grab a number, and then you just, wait for hours. And so I won't mention any cities that Fremont open, but, it's just terrible. So here, and that's the thing. Sometimes we get complaints because the reality is we kind of spoil our contractors and homeowners and, submitters. So when it's not always perfect, or it takes a little more time, we hear about it. So, and we're next day inspections. During COVID, we were short. One note, we right at the beginning of COVID, we lost an inspector to COVID. Great colleague and friend of ours. And so we were short, 25% of our workforce after that. And we had to limit the amount of inspections we took a day, but we're fully staffed now, back up to snuff on capacity. So, I mean, we've, been next day again for months now. So, and you can, if you do it online, you could do it up to, I think it's 2 a.m. the morning of the day of your inspection. I got to pick it up here. Why would your project be value added with a permit? You guys can read all that, and it's really common sense. I mean, helps your property value. I can tell you, after the banking bust, and then when things started to come back up, and appraisers, during escrow, we get inquiries. We get these things called PRAs. We get, walk-up inquiries, or the appraiser is calling us and saying, hey, there's a big addition back here with no permits. And so they're kind of telling on the customer. And are there any real estate brokers here? I mean, they really have to be up on the house that they're going to market. If they see this addition, I mean, brokers know homes and can tell if there's a newer part of the house. Make sure that thing is on there, because for a while there it didn't make a difference. It still didn't make a difference if people are putting a large cash down or paying cash for a house or a building. But believe me, the after the fact stuff is way harder to fix and remedy than.
So how does that grandfathering in
Yeah,
work? I've been in my house now for 23 years.
Yeah.
Who knows what they did in the 40s with the addition that was put on the house, and we were told that.
Yeah.
But then somebody new joins your staff, or,
Yeah.
somebody who happens to belong, well, that's not, like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one.
30s or 40s.
There's, in our world, the grandfather thing doesn't exist. There's a term called legal nonconforming, that's getting into the planning world, but it would be hard pressed to go to your house, let's say, you made your neighbor mad, and they've been there 40 years, they know that's an illegal addition, and they call it, we also, we build like I said, and it'd be hard pressed to make you tear down a 40-year-old addition. But we'll definitely inspect it, and, maybe, have you get a set of plans, and it might not even show up at the county. So here's the other thing, is you might want to spend that little bit of money, get it legalized, do a little, they do a little dig down, make sure you have, a standard footing, make sure everything's good and safe. Then, once it's signed off, within, it takes a while sometimes, 6 months to a year, it ends up on the county record. So you're, when we talk about value added, now you've got that 400 square feet added to the assessor's notes, and maybe it's an extra bedroom or the bathroom, so it's worth the money. Or you have options of making it into a junior accessory dwelling unit. So on our website, there's everything on that.
Yeah, well, you guys have changed radically in 20 years about ADUs.
Yeah, oh, definitely, and pretty darn easy to do now, and legal. And we can't cite you for an illegal, but we can give you time and opportunity to make it legal. So like a garage conversion, there's things you can do.
I'm more concerned about when we have a client that's been there for 40 years.
Yeah.
It was something that was done previous to their ownership.
Yeah, they own it. I mean, it's like a marriage, for better or for worse.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about somebody who's in their 80s.
I know. Believe me, we kids love things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I usually handle things like that personally. And we always make it work. It's not ugly. Let's put it that way. Another one, just a flirt. We have 2 twin buildings over that bar. These are all fun to do. I mean, coming from the residential world, and then coming over to this side, one of the first things that I got put on, oh my God, I can't remember what it was, so long ago. But it was a big commercial job, and it was just so exciting to learn new things, and that responsibility of, overseeing all of it. We're not the builders, obviously, but we're looking at every aspect, every connection, all the rebar, so we do take our work serious. I don't know why I put that in there, but I like it. I remember those days. And then this is just our landing page. It's actually 2 parts to it. But you can see, there's a ton of information, all of our contact info, building permit procedures. You know, the fee question, I think I actually printed building fees, and you can almost from those, because the current, figure out, you know, pretty close of what fees are. Fees are like, building permit fees are like gasoline charges. There's all kinds of other things tagged on it. And our building fee is, you know, we're not in the profit-making business. We're just a cost recovery. And really, we can only recover like about 85%. So it's a deal of the century. But then, you know, there's tech fees, and there's all this, and state fees, and it goes on, that's what pumps it up. But that's all for you guys to peruse on the website. And same thing with planning. I think I did a planning printout of it too. Just some more, you know, tips. Call or visit us. And I'm big on pre-application meetings, especially on our bigger jobs, but it doesn't matter to me. To you, your kitchen remodel might be the biggest thing you do in your life. So it's big to you, it's big to me. Okay? So read that, and then, okay. The Q&As, you were asking. Residential, you know, 10 days the first round. And when I say first round, that's our plant owner looks at it, makes comments, sends it back. When that comes back, it's only 5 days after that in each successive round. The successive rounds is where you get into a time suck that you'll never get out. You will get out, but you want to get it in the first, the first or second go around. So it's key to hire folks and consultants like you and to smooth out that stuff. It sounds like you know exactly what to do. But here's the key: is like the architect that you put with a client. Here's the key: is in between here. You know, and it also takes, by the way, just so you know, full disclosure, when you submit, whatever way you do, we have many ways you can do it. You know, electronic, you can come in paper, there's permits by email, which is the electronic way, and you fill out the forms, send the form, and the plans in. And so we're kind of semi-electronic now, but the key to, in any of these, ADUs, small tenant improvements, large tenant improvements, large scale projects, is stay on the responder. The responder is whoever's dealing with the comments from the plans now. The more quality first round submittal you have, chock full of nuts. It's better to chock up more full of nuts than you need, and those will filter out later. But what you want to do is if you have let's say it's the architect, and he's working 12 clients. When that round comes in, you want to stay as a consultant or as a homeowner. You want to know when that round gets to that person, and you want to hound them like anything. Because you want to get that turnaround. There's where the time's at. I was going to print up, but I thought because of, you know, it would be somebody else's plan. But I've seen ones where I'll get a call and say, why is it taking so long? Because in between that first submittal and the time we get it back, 30, 40 days. So multiply that through 3 rounds. That's the time matter right there in between. We have these shot clocks that we're pretty darn good at keeping within these time frames. But we have no control once we send it out, back out for response. We have no control over that. And some of these folks, and then what happens then is, you know, he called, the contractor will call the architect and say, hey, what's up with the permit? And he'll say, I don't know, I send it back. Well, you know, I print it out, and you never do this in front of contractors and customers in the same room. I let the contractor kind of know that, hey, look, this architect's had it. A contractor, if he's busy, will use that as the greatest time adjuster, schedule adjuster in the world. You know, hey, I don't have a permit, and it's not going to be, you know, the architect is taking forever. I got to go on to the next job, and I'll come back to you. And then he's got his instant out. So if you guys are really, you know, keen on when this happens, say, hey, I want to be on the CC. I want to be CC'd on all that correspondence. So you can stay up on it, and you can. So then you can, next day, hey, you know, are you dealing with these, and then the architects say, yeah, they're all stupid. They're all stupid comments. So, you know, I used to hear my architect say that.
So I have a question. So when you say 10 days 10 days, 10-day second round, and each successive round.
Yeah.
That's when it's here at City Hall.
Yes, yeah, that's our shop clock, you know,
That's your
those are
shop.
definite times, you know, that
Okay,
you
so
can,
even when you send it out to the different planners that inspect it, I forget what you guys call those people, but.
our consultants?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can, they are also on that same clock?
Yeah, yeah, so we get it to them, and again, that's lightning fast because they're typically electronic. And what I did put on here is when you come and submit, you know, that application, you know, that creates a little more work at the back desk for that person that brings it in. So there's another 4 to 7 days prior to that, I should put that in, and now I'm just noticing my mistake, prior to that 10 business days, because we're, you know, we have a great problem here. We're super busy, town's on fire, it doesn't look like it's slowing down unless
Yeah.
inflation goes nuts and interest rates go crazy, but, you know, I think we're gonna be fine that way. So, but yes, you're right, and that doesn't, and I'm anticipating the third party or consultant question, and, you know, a couple things. One is, when I was just a field inspector here, we had 2 structural engineers doing plan checking. First of all, they only did structural. They didn't do the other disciplines. And so it still had to go to a consultant because it's really hard for the municipality to have experts at every discipline, from building to, you know, to structural, to mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So, and these people make a lot of money. You know, they're higher paid, higher educated, higher paid. And it's really hard when you have a downturn like we did during the recession to keep those folks on. So it makes us more nimble. And from a contractor's point of view, when we send, you know, when that goes out and they're looking at all the disciplines, you get a more qualitative plan check, and I think that's where the pushback is. But you typically, these are all smart folks that we contract. We vet them, we change them a couple times in the 2 that we use, and we also do in-house. I was able to get a plans examiner that's doing up to and including ADUs, additions, and things like that. So we're trying to keep, you know, more stuff in. But, you know, if we were, you know, to find a unicorn that's got structural and all the other disciplines, first of all, it would cost a fortune, and second of all, they don't exist. You know, I mean, that's multiple, we're certification based, and we all have a lot of certifications, but to have that, we'll hire, because, you know, but it just doesn't exist. So it doesn't add time, they're on that same clock, but what happens is, and I tell you, it's 9 times out of 10, it's the time in between. Even though, you know, we have, you know, printouts, and so I'll use that, not in a negative way, to say, hey, look, you know, here's our, let's just say 10, 5, 5, here's our 20 days, 25 days that we had it, and, but here's the other 180 days that you know, that the person responding to comments, had it. And I'll send that, I won't send it to an owner,
Right.
but they'll know that, hey, you know, we're kind of onto that. So, you know,
So
that's
right now, do you guys feel like you're caught up, or are things?
we're never caught up. No, I mean, we have, here's some good things, and that's a good thing not being caught up, but we still, no matter what, we have to stick with this. Planning has the shot, I would call it the shot clock. They have to stick with that. And then also, when we parse it out to fire, which that's another thing, they're right there. So that's handy. When it has to go to engineering transportation, they're all on the same clock. Now, a couple of other departments got a little behind on things during COVID, but we're doing interviews Wednesday for a new permits clerk. So that represents basically 20% up in productivity, handling people, you know, from the street. So that's a good thing.
So when a business comes to us and they just say, oh my God, our permit is taking forever,
Yeah, talk to your architect or talk to your contractor.
okay.
Yeah, and, you know, don't go like, hey, Mike said, you know, but, you know,
Scott?
It's insider information.
And this is where his office is now?
yeah, he's right in, City Hall. And, he lives on the corner of,
So you guys get it back, and then those folks have to look at it and see what the comments are, and then there's days within there.
yeah,
It takes a while.
exactly.
Okay.
And that's been, and I'm hoping that improves, when we're, you know, 100%, you know, electronic, digital, because, you know, they can do it so much quicker. And our comments usually, you know, they are communicated via email and stuff. So there's really, right now, not an excuse, but there's still some of the old-fashioned attorneys that are paper, mail back and forth. And, but that's an avenue that we still have to accept because it's still a percentage of our customer base. So we still have to do it that way too. But there is a time, you know, that that won't even be an option anymore, you know, in this electronic world. So,
Mike,
hmm?
I had for the first time a contractor for one of my clients tell me that they had to submit a video in their application. Is that standard?
Here?
Yeah.
Was it for sewer line?
No, it was bathroom remodel.
Video.
Yeah.
Get, find out where that was and who asked for that, because, I don't know if, you know, sometimes, like there's this person that, you know, said they didn't build the addition, but they did the foundation, asking for an extension, but it's 5 years old. And it's kind of hard to extend a permit that died 5 years ago. But sure enough, we asked for some photos. Sure enough, it's just in the foundation floor frame stage. So, and then, you know, you have to take people at, you know, the truth, you know, whatever they say, we have to take it as the truth. Can't say you're a liar. So we had a death in the family, and then we had COVID. And so now I'm inclined to extend that permit because our FEMA flood maps have changed. And if he were to reapply now, that foundation had to be lifted out and he had to build it, you know, above base flood elevation. But since that permit, and it's like, he told the truth, we looked at Google, and we also have this other software that shows, you know, multiple layers of photos from, what's the oldest one now, 97, I think, to now, and he was spot on, you know, I don't know about the family, but we had to take him for his word, so I'm gonna extend it, because we don't want him to tear out, you know, spend another $50,000 on a new foundation, just because the flood map, you know, moved a couple of feet, put him in the flood zone, so.
So if I have a client who, he has a, I guess it'd be called an ADU,
Yeah.
that he says he believes was permitted many years ago.
Yeah.
Is there a way to check on that?
Yeah, on some of the older stuff, I would suggest for him to ask for, go to the county and ask for a worksheet. Because there's older records there, and they'll make up a whole like handwritten worksheet of, you know, permit activity on that project. Sometimes including the actual bill, even on some of the older ones.
So we go to the county and ask for a worksheet?
Yeah, a worksheet on that property. And then they'll bring it back to us and we'll go, wow, that was permitted. But
is that true for, or how do you do that for like current projects? We have a client who had some work done just in the fall, and we have a feeling it might not have been permitted. How would we?
yeah, you mean like a separate ADU?
No, they had additions to their house, railings,
Yeah.
not pergolas,
Yeah.
verandas.
Yeah, so our advice is to read some photos and get with, all roads kind of lead to planning first. You know, make sure we're in the setbacks and kind of, you know.
But I mean, how do we check to see if the contractor had full permits, done that?
A couple ways. One is you could do a public records request, PRA, and that's on the website. The other is the county workup, but I would start locally first with us. And then, you know, and this, it's a two-edged sword with the public records request.
This isn't San Leandro or Alameda County,
Oh.
but so we go to the city.
Yeah,
or-
this is somewhere else. Yeah. You know, yeah, I mean, I worked out of Rolling Creek, and they're all just, I mean, don't be intimidated by the building departments. They're, our real mission is to help everybody else, and is to help out and make it smooth. Oh, look at that, last one. Oh, yeah. So I gave you the fee schedule, so you guys could look at that, and you can see all the other different fees that are involved. If you do an addition over 500 square feet, residential addition, the school fees kick in, and I don't even know, I think that's like $4 or something a square foot. There's all kinds of other little fees, but I included those in your info packet. I think we caught the questions on, was there any, yeah?
I just want to thank you so much, and I apologize for running late, but I have just a random,
Yeah.
and maybe you talked about it, I was just curious. During quarantine, was there more applications for permits from families?
Yeah.
And why was that?
If people are working, I mean, I did two things at home because we were working
Because
from
we're at
home.
home.
And I'm staring at these walls going, and then, you know what the big driver was?
We'll be back home.
Yeah, so
We'll get with you.
IT set us up, you know,
I see
little
that.
offices, and I'm in the dining room, and I'm looking back at our hutch, and it looks like my grandma's hutch, and it's in the, you know, so I put a fake background in, so I told my wife, we gotta get some new furniture, and then I have a cash office, and then I remodeled my office, or kind of refurbished it, and moved that back out there, and so people are looking at their walls,
Right.
and going, this is driving me nuts, so that was a big, residential, right now, residential is a big driver. I mean, the ADUs are off the hook, you know, a lot of ADUs.
You know, ADUs, but if I have a neighbor who's, she said, we're gonna do an ADU, it's like, okay, and so it's taking care of the permit, it's like, good, because it's the first I've heard, and I'm looking for a lot, and my lot, and it's like, where's that? And they're talking about self-building, it's like, oh, he's a carpenter.
Yeah.
It's like, does he know how to code?
Yeah, well, you know, they'll submit plans and we'll make sure, but yeah, so, I know Ralph.
Actually, what I was gonna ask you to build a little bit on about the hiring professional.
So to back up, you gotta hire a professional. That is one of the keys, besides that time in between the plant test for comments, is it's really tough for a homeowner to come in and develop their own plans and get it through scrutiny. I mean, it's super tough.
Well, they're doing like an architect, which is.
Residentially, you can be a designer.
That's fine.
And the thing about
I'm
homes,
just concerned about the
Mhm.
actual implementation of it,
yeah, the actual,
building,
the actual job itself. Or even-
the actual, yeah.
Yeah,
The-
yeah. But you know, a lot, residentially speaking, we also have the California Residential Code, which has a lot of prescriptive tables in it, which you can virtually pluck out of the tables and do, you know, shear walls, window placements, foundation, and refer to those tables. And a designer can pluck those out, say they're referencing the 2019 California Residential Code, and you go up to 2 stories and, you know, have all your load and shear transfer. So that makes it a lot easier for quote unquote like designers. But it's a hard go. Kitchen remodels and bathrooms, the homeowner can really do it. We're basically looking above a napkin, you know, sketch on that. So I'm trying to make that a little easier these days too. So.
Well, Michael, you did give us a lot of good information.
Okay.
I would like to get this digitally, and we'll put it on our website,
All right.
or just kind of share it with numbers or
Sure.
whatnot. But
Okay.
yeah, no, this was really great.
All right,
This
good deal.
gives you a nice kind of, I mean, there's a lot of steps involved and a lot of information to
Yeah.
go through.
Yeah.
So thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you for that, yeah.
This fall.
And so this afternoon, you guys, at 4:30, virtual, we're gonna learn about procurement with an expert panel. So go to the website, register, and Jessica will get you the link for the Zoom at that time. So we'll hopefully see you this afternoon. Bye-bye.
Sorry, I'm walking quicker, like my daughter jumped up on me, take your daughter to work today.